For my listeners, I know I've been talking about digital marketing for 2 years on this podcast, and it's just been me talking about digital marketing. I've had some different members of different parts of different industries come and join and share their expertise and things like that. But I've never really had somebody else from the industry that does digital marketing join this podcast. And so today it's going to be a little bit different. I've got a special visitor here today in the studio, in the live studio audience. So for those of you guys keeping track of trivia questions, Sarah is my first in-person live guest for the Corner Your Market podcast. So when that shows up on Jeopardy in 2050, you'll reference this episode and you'll be able to figure that out. But I met Sarah not too long ago. She does the same thing that I do, digital marketing, web design development. She's a phenomenal marketer in her own right. And I was just so impressed by the introduction that she gave me. And I went through her website, looked through the work that she's done. She works with her husband, and they co-own Jambo John. They established that in 2010. And so I invited her on the show today to just talk about, she's going to basically check me, make sure that I'm not telling you guys stuff that you should not be doing and things like that. She's really smart. She really knows her stuff. And so I'm really, really happy to have her on the show. So with that, we're going to get started really quick. Welcome to the latest episode of Corner Your Market. I'm your host, Silas Kimide. In this podcast, I talk about all things digital marketing, from website design and development to SEO and PPC, as well as paid advertising, email marketing, social media, and anything in between. If you're a small business owner, a marketing manager in a company, or an entrepreneur, this podcast is for you. So tune in every Thursday at 10 a.m. You'll gain some practical insights, new strategies, tactics, and tools that will help you grow your business. To subscribe, go to corneryourmarketpodcast.com and select the podcast app of your choice. Then you can hit subscribe within those apps. That again is corneryourmarketpodcast.com. Also, don't forget to like and share our individual episodes. You can also leave a review in the app once you've listened to one of our episodes. Well, thank you for joining me, Sarah. I'm so glad you're able to join me. I know, like I said in the intro, you're a digital marketer at heart. You've been working with your husband. Your story kind of mirrors mine because I work with my wife.
Wonderful.
And so it's been a great journey. So we have a lot of things in common. One thing that I really loved about your background is your storytelling and your web design aspect of it. And then you talked about your Shakespeare plays and things like that. We can get into that in a little bit, but tell me a little bit about yourself. I mean, I don't know if I did a great job introducing you, but a little bit of more of a background on who you are, what you do, and all that kind of stuff, just for our audience to know you more.
First off, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm super excited to be able to share some thoughts and feedback and ideas that we've had in our business, and I just really appreciate being here. I was born and raised in Salt Lake City. I grew up on the first curvy street in Salt Lake City.
Okay.
For those of you who aren't from Utah, Utah is set up as like a grid system.
Right.
So it's really easy to find where you're going. And I lived at the top of the Horseshoe in the Harvard-Yale neighborhood.
Okay.
Top of Gilmore Drive, which is kind of a cool little fact. So I went to East High School. I graduated from the University of Utah. And my first marketing job, I actually got an internship at Red Butte Garden.
Okay.
It's a 150-acre botanical garden that's adjacent to the University of Utah. And we helped, I helped it do press checks, and I learned how to do graphic design and do print. And I actually got to go on the 5 a.m. news stories with Big Buddha because my boss didn't want to wake up that early, and I was the intern. She was like,
send the intern.
Go send the intern. And so I have a long history with like radio and TV promotion and professional copywriting and advertising. That's really where I got my start.
And so where did you, I mean, you told me the story of your company and the name.
Yeah.
The Safari and everything.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that? Because that kind of represents what you do for your clients too, to tell that story, right?
Oh my gosh. Well, my family, like we're big big Disney fans.
Okay.
You a Disney fan? You like?
I am okay on Disney.
Okay.
I still don't like the fact that they bought Star Wars, but that's a different story.
That can be painful. That can be painful. Well, my family, we love to go to Disney, and we were in Animal Kingdom in the Africa section, and it's so cool because Disney just goes all out in their storytelling. You know, they've got these roads that looks like there's all these cracks, like it's a really old road, and they have animal prints, like the animals have come through with the mud. And we're in line for the safari, and over the loudspeaker you hear Jumbo, and
that's
welcome
right.
to Kilimanjaro Safari, and that's the name of the safari is Kilimanjaro Safari, and they've taken the swampland of Florida and transformed it into the Sahara Desert.
Wow.
It's just incredible.
It is incredible.
And so my husband is standing in front of me, and my brother-in-law turns to my husband, and he says, Jumbo, Johnny, because my husband's name is Johnny. And so Jumbo means hello in Swahili. And at the time, web development was Star Trek. It was cold steel and metal and really simple and really plain and really sterile. And we thought, what a great idea, because the internet really is like a safari.
It is. You can get lost.
You can get lost.
Attacked.
You can get attacked.
Ambushed.
You can get ambushed. Well, I don't know about you or any of the listeners. I would never go to the safari by myself. I mean, I want to go to the safari, but I would never do it alone.
Like a real life, like
a real life
in
safari.
East Africa. Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be so cool to see the elephants and see that watering hole where all the animals congregate and,
Yeah.
you know, to see the different cultures and things like that. And so owning a business is like being on safari.
It is.
And if it's not a safari, it might be like climbing Angel's Landing or...
It's challenging. It really is. You need a permit now to go up Angel's Landing.
I got a permit.
Okay.
I did it in a snowstorm.
Wow.
We can talk about that one later. But and so we really wanted to have a feeling of like we wanted to be the guides. Like you'd go to the outfitter and you'd get the right Jeep and you'd get the right equipment and you'd have a guide that help you avoid the pitfalls and help you avoid the predators and help you get the front row seat to that watering hole. Now, it's really cool because in Africa, you're going to go find that flock of birds or you're going to go find the giraffes. But in marketing, you get to design it.
Right. That's a good point.
Right?
Yeah. You create it.
You create it. So part of the digital marketing story is like, do you want to wear feathers? Do you want to have really bright colors? Do you want to be kind of camouflaged? Do you want to be a little bit more subversive? Or do you want to be in the water? So the first part of that is how do you want your tribe to look?
Right. So you've really taken the safari, because I heard a couple of things there. You talked about safari, the unknown, the challenges and everything like that. But then there's also that creative element to it, right? Because you said, oh, you can create this and you can build this. And that's a really good way to capture digital marketing, because I think one thing that I've learned is things can really blindside you in terms of what is this? You know, what does this mean? Or how do I approach this? What do I do with this? And things like that.
Yeah.
So how do you walk your clients through that journey?
I love that question. Thank you so much for asking that question. My first thought is, I think that we have a lot of intuition, but we don't necessarily know why we're having a feeling about a brand.
Okay.
And so, for example, all of the banks use blue.
Yeah, they do.
In some version. It might be blue and red and white, or it might be blue and white, or it might be blue.
Yeah.
Right? So like blue represents security. And don't you want your money to be secure?
Yeah.
Right? So the intention of like, why do you need to go through a process is like, as a business owner, you think, oh, well, I really like the color purple, or I really like red. I want to make my brand red. Well, what does red mean?
Right.
Right? What does red remind people of? All of the fast food restaurants or what?
Red, right?
Yeah. And yellow.
And yellow. McDonald's, right? Yellow, yeah.
In-N-Out, Wendy's.
Yeah.
Taco Bell. Like it's just interesting. So as you dive into digital marketing, then you can start peeling back the layers and be like, well, why did they choose that?
Right.
And then how, as a business owner, can I make decisions consciously based on my intentions?
Right. That's
serve?
a good point. That's a good point.
So yes, like what's the process with that? I'm a storyteller. I'm a writer. I've written over 7 million words since 2017.
Since 2017, 7 million words.
7 million words. It's crazy.
How do you keep track of that?
I have a software program.
Okay.
It's kind of like an Apple Watch with your exercise.
Like counting your steps, you count
Yeah.
your words? Wow,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
And they give you stickers, which makes me happy. And so, but here's the thing is like, you have to play the tech game for Google to introduce you to its customers.
Right.
But you have to play the story game in order to create an emotional response.
And a connection.
And a connection to the people who will be buying the product.
That's a great, that right there is gold right there, because it's like you have to use both sides of your brain, right?
Yes.
I think sometimes digital marketing guys get so geeky. They're explaining XYZ, analytics, conversion rates, page views, all these nuances.
Yes.
But then they're like, well, the customer's like, well, why aren't I getting any business out of this thing? Well, you just got to give it more time, So I like your answer there.
You have to marry the art and the science.
Yes.
And whether you're doing digital marketing with paid ads or your social media presence or your website, you have to marry the art and the science of it.
It reminds me of, this is not a long story, but I used to work for a big advertising company in Arizona. And the guy that ran the TV ads, that did all the, he was in charge of like the creative department, big ad guy, came from New York, spent many decades working on commercials. And he told me, I was still, fairly new to marketing at the time. He said, in order to make your commercials work, you either have to have a baby or a puppy in it. And at the time I thought, that's a great, funny joke, but the longer I've been in this business, I'm realizing that emotional connection is really what he's talking about, right?
Yeah.
Like who looks at a baby and they go, oh, there's that immediate connection.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
you get that little hit of oxytocin.
Yeah.
And your brain is naturally like, I need to protect this.
Yeah.
I need to nurture this. I need to engage with this thing.
Yeah.
Right?
So how do you do that? Like not everybody's, manufacturing babies and puppies, so,
Right.
So how do you do that for like businesses that maybe pool products or plumbing company? Or, how do you connect that?
Absolutely. So there's two things I want to tell you about is number one is identifying your brand archetype is really helpful. And number two is actually using storytelling formulas.
Okay.
So I wanted to start with the storytelling formulas. I saw this post recently and somebody was mad. They're like, J.K. Rowling stole the Star Wars formula. And that's why Harry Potter is so popular. I was like, calm down. They both stole it.
Yeah.
So I love to bake cookies.
Okay.
I love to bake cookies. If you forget the salt, so you have 6 cups of ingredients, right? You have 3 cups of flour and 2 cups of sugar and 1 cup of butter. If you forget the 1 teaspoon of salt, you just throw the cookies away. Don't even. Just start over.
Yeah.
Storytelling is the same way. It's a recipe. So the same formula that Shakespeare used to write Hamlet is the same formula in Lion King.
Yeah. It's the same formula.
It's the same formula. And so I think it can be disappointing because then when you're reading a really good book, you're like, oh, the guide has to die. I love the guide. He's my favorite. But as a professional, it allows you to create an emotional connection to your users.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's really cool is like knowing the storytelling formulas. And there's 7 basic storytelling formulas. Joseph Campbell transformed the traditional overcoming the monster.
Okay.
There's a couple into a storytelling formula called Hero's Journey, which is really popular right now.
Okay.
But the beautiful thing is, for example, if you own a business and you have a customer, most people make the mistake of saying, I'm the hero. Our company is the hero that's going to come in and be the story. But that's a huge mistake. And I think if businesses can realize you are just a blip in somebody else's story, and if you can be the guide, give them a tool or give them a service or give them insight or confidence, then the user, the customer wants to be the hero. Yeah. And you're part of the reason why they're successful, but it's not about you.
That's a good point, because I think when you think of brands or companies that you feel like are really good and you want to talk about, Like I talk about businesses that I interact with where I feel like I'm the hero. I'm so glad I found them.
Yeah.
Look, I tell my wife, look what I found, look, they do this. And I'm the hero of that story, right?
Right.
Like they're just a
Right.
participant
Right.
in making me a hero.
Yes.
You know,
And it also,
so-
I think as businesses, it allows us to be servant leaders.
Right.
I think that marketers get a bad rap for being deceitful.
Yes.
And I think this is the book of Sarah is we have to lead with problems because our brains will actually make messages disappear unless it's solving a problem. So as a marketer or as a business owner, if you're not addressing the problems in the room, your potential customers are going to be like, I'm so busy trying to just survive. I don't have time to even look at what you're trying to offer.
Right.
So
That's an interesting
it's
point.
really different than fear mongering. We're heading into an election cycle and you see a ton of fear mongering.
I don't watch anything. I'm just like, I'm not going to watch anything.
But if
I want to
you-
leave the country for the next 7 months.
Right?
And come back.
But if you can lead with a problem, then what happens is the brain of your consumers is actually looking for those solutions.
Right.
And so then you can say, hey, do you have this particular problem? And the consumer will say, well, of course I have that problem.
Yeah.
I've been looking. I'm so glad I found you.
Yeah.
Tell me more. Tell me, how can I sign up? How much does it cost? And so I think that's a really beautiful example of servant leadership is like showing empathy and compassion and giving tips and tricks and tools to help solve problems is a really great way to attract.
So how do you do all of this without like looking fake? You know what I mean? Sometimes I look at ads or creatives and things like that, and it doesn't feel like they genuinely know. Do you know? I mean, sometimes it can come across fake, like we care about our customer, but the sales guy that shows up or, does this is not in alignment with it. I guess that's an operational issue or
Yeah. Well, and it's like this service with a smile, you're like, hey, we serve with a smile, but then you go to the front desk at the dentist's office and they're grumpy.
Right, exactly.
So I think the real trick to that, and it's not a trick, is to be authentic and to be aligned with your core values.
And not promise something that's not in alignment with your core values. That makes sense.
Which I think is like if you're hiring out your marketing and you're hiring a third party to do your marketing, you need to make sure that you're hiring somebody that has the tool set to grapple with the authentic business and to grapple with your story. I mentioned storytelling archetypes a minute ago. Carl Jung was a social scientist and had created a framework to have 12 archetypes. You've probably heard of them. There's the explorer, there's the sage, there's the jester.
Yeah, I've heard parts of it,
Yeah, there's words that are familiar with our language. But I think one really easy way to identify with a message that can be authentic is to identify what is your brand archetype. And there's different ways to do this. At Jumbo John, we have a brand archetype quiz that your viewers can go to jumbojohn.com and download it and do it. It's really, really entertaining. But the idea is like, we're going to lead with what's important to us.
Right.
So for example, if you go to the Jumbo John website, there's tons of adventure. There's climbing the mountains and there's the rapids and there's the Japanese pagodas because we're leading as the adventurer. We want to be the guide, right?
You have one thing I noticed about you is when you told me when we first had the introduction, I went to your website and I was like, wow, Sarah actually lives what she says. That was like, the website was like, wow, this is an adventure. So talk about being authentic is that you were really authentic in the way you presented yourself.
Thank you.
And then it was backed up by what I saw. And I was like, oh, they're really special. So
oh my gosh.
just wanted to give you that thumbs up there.
I love that. Well, I think as the brand is like, if you understand what your brand archetype is, then when you hire your social media team and you hire your web team and you hire your new sales team, you're like, this is who we are. And you attract people who embody that as well.
Yeah. Because it's challenging to work with a marketing company that doesn't even know who they are. How are they going to help me? It's kind of like going to a dental office and seeing the dentist with like, bad teeth. You know what I mean? It's
gosh.
The guy doesn't even take care of his own teeth.
And here's the interesting thing. We were doing a website for a medical company. They have 17 locations across the country, big organization. And we had decided that we were going to lead with the sage archetype, which a lot of businesses use the sage archetype. The sage archetype is like, You are the expert. You've been through the trenches. You know what not to do. You have the wisdom and the authority to help guide and to teach people.
Got it. That makes sense. I can see why businesses use that.
It's
Yeah.
very common.
Yeah.
But the language wasn't landing. It didn't feel right, the language inside the website copy.
Okay.
And so we switched the language to caregiver.
Okay.
So one of the archetypes is a caregiver. I said, I'm going to watch over you. I'm going to help guide your healing. I'm going to monitor your progress. I'm going to make sure that your mental and your physical and your emotional needs are taken care of. And it transformed the website and took it from sterile to magic.
Interesting.
And so it was just that one little thing is like we were heading in a direction that we thought was authentic, but it didn't feel right.
Right.
And then we switched it just based on this one piece of information. And then it felt like this was in alignment with the core values of the business owners, as well as the experience that they were managing in their operations and on.
Very cool. So now switching gears a little bit because we are in the year 2024, right?
Yes.
How is AI going to impact this stuff? I know I put that in the sheet there.
Yes, I saw that. Yep.
You know what I mean? Because that's one of the questions I get all the time is, are you writing it or is AI writing it? Are you doing this work or is AI doing it? How are you guys approaching that?
I love this question. And I think this is something that I don't think that anyone knows the full answer to this yet. Just like
I was hoping you did. That's why you're here, Sarah.
Well, here's the thing: is like in 2007, did we know what smartphones were going to do?
No.
Did we know like at the brush of the internet, like what the internet was going to do?
No.
We just walked through a portal. We just walked over a threshold of AI to the public. And so I think that we can have some ideas of what to do and how to manage it and how to use it. So I'd love to share with you my thoughts about it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And I also recognize that if we look back at this, if we're on the Jeopardy channel in 2050,
you'll be the first. Yeah, you're the first.
And we'll like reference this information. we may have it wrong, right?
Yeah.
So I think that it's a paradox because I think that AI is a tool that we can use to create marketing and to facilitate copy and to create blog posts and to create landing pages. And if we don't use humans, I think that we miss the magic.
Right.
And so I like to think about it like, for example, in the 1800s, a job that was available was a window knocker.
Yes.
And if you wanted an alarm clock, you would hire your neighbor to go knock on your window. That's kind of creepy.
That's kind of weird.
Right?
I've seen pictures of the people like in London. They have these little broom things that they basically knock on the window.
Right?
Yeah.
That was a job.
Yeah, that was a job.
And so like, that's not a job anymore. And so I think that we have to learn how to be flexible and realize we have to pivot. And
but the Window Knockers Association is still, I don't know, I'm just joking. They're still pretty upset. Yeah.
They're still pretty. So I think like, how can we use it but not become a slave to it? And how do we use it to help facilitate growth, but not take away the heart of the human experience?
Yeah.
And so what I like to recommend is an AI sandwich. So anytime you're using AI, it has to start with really good input.
Absolutely.
The better your input, the better your output.
Absolutely.
So for example, my husband, who's a programmer, he's our lead programmer, he programmed something in one day that would have taken him 8 to code by hand through AI. But here's the thing. I couldn't have programmed in one day what he did because I couldn't have given the correct input. Right?
That's a great point.
So it's like, I think that if we're not using it, we're going to fall behind.
Yeah.
But I think, so you have to start with really good input. And
it's like any tool, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can give me a tool. You can put me in a mechanic shop and give me a tool. I'm not going to know how to fix that car.
Right.
I could have all the tools. I could have everything I need. I could have the uniform. I could have the glasses, whatever it is. I don't know if I can get that car in that lift. You know what I mean? I don't know how that works. I think it's the same thing. Yeah. I think we're getting inundated by AI content. I think Google's latest updates is going to crack down on AI spam, right? So that's happening. And then you have people that are taking the easy route and just putting out stuff made by AI, which is unfortunate.
Well, and I think like once you get AI copy and AI blog posts and AI newsletters, you have to have a human touch to clean it up.
Yeah.
But I think what the algorithms are looking for is they actually want good copy.
Right, they do.
They want thought leaders. They want to refer websites that are producing a really good experience for their users.
Right.
Right.
That's a good point.
And so I think that we have to monitor how I think the AI content, for example, if you're going to be using AI content for blog posting with human interaction, it has to replicate the same production schedule you were doing without AI.
Yeah.
So you can't post 100 blog post articles in a month when before you're like, I updated my website twice last year.
Yeah. You're flooding it. There's smart AI on the other end detecting it too. It's spy versus spy. Remember the Mad Comics, the spy versus spy, AI versus AI.
Right. So some of that AI is just regurgitating old information. Yeah. And I think as if you want to be a thought leader, or if you want to be a product leader, you have to be creating new information.
Well, it's in the name, regenerative AI, right? Mm-hmm. It's regenerating what's already there. It's not creating anything new.
Yeah.
So from what I'm hearing you say is it's going to have an impact in the productivity. It can have impact in maybe accelerating your thinking and your processes and things like that. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, the expertise of the human is very important.
Yes.
And the expertise that they bring to using AI is also very important, right? Mm-hmm. So it can be very, very powerful that way. So how do you see, what would you tell a small business owner right now? Mm-hmm. Maybe they've got a decent sized business. They're hearing all this stuff about AI and digital marketing. I don't need an agency. I can just do this myself. I'm just going to hire some college kid or intern and put them in front of ChatGPT so they can bang out stuff.
Good luck.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That's great.
Yeah.
You know what? I think this is the challenging thing about marketing because marketing is such a low overhead business to be in.
Yeah.
That we have a wide variety of skills and experts that are offering marketing services.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's a great place for freelancers and for the younger generation to market. I think it's a really good opportunity to earn a living.
Yeah.
And depending on the risk management that you're taking in your business, you may want to invest more, especially with somebody that's going to be planning your marketing campaigns and planning the marketing growth. Just to ensure that you're avoiding the pitfalls.
Right.
Right. So, for example, with AI copy, we have an awesome website. I love working on their website. Their content strategy is to use mediocre copy through AI with the blogging. And we had a huge amount of growth, but as soon as the algorithm hit, we saw about a 30% decrease in traffic.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so now that we know that the algorithm's out, then we can pivot and we can tweak and we can change what we're doing. But it's really important to have a leader in your marketing sphere that has vision and has skills to get you from A to B.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as a business owner, if you don't have the skills to create the vision, make sure that your team, whether you're hiring somebody young, because young people, I think in some ways are more flexible and more, right? They can be more flexible than we are. Weird that I'm saying this, but as somebody with more experience. But I think it's like, can you quantify that specific function that will create the results you're looking for?
Young people are very, very adaptive too. I mean, I just found out after my daughter graduated high school that she was like, "Oh, Dad, I got to cancel my ChatGPT subscription." I was like, "What were you using ChatGPT for?" Well, I mean, high school was work, you know. So these kids have ChatGPT Pro versions that they're using to get all their work done.
ChatGPT is awesome. We use ChatGPT, I think, for planning and organization.
Yeah.
ChatGPT can be used as a training model.
Yeah, it can.
You know, one of the things I love as I'm walking participants through a marketing workshop using ChatGPT, one of the prompts I use is, okay, I have a website business in Utah. Ask me 20 questions about my business. Okay, so now I have a list of questions that ChatGPT came up with.
Yeah.
And either I can answer them or I can say, based on what you know about website development for WordPress, what would your answer be for these questions? Okay, now with the answers to those questions, make a 12-month marketing calendar with a theme for each month and 4 blog post article titles for each month.
Wow, that's impressive.
And then in 20 minutes, literally in 20 minutes, I have an outline for a marketing campaign.
That's
now,
awesome.
I still need to do the legwork.
Yeah.
I can write copy with the ChatGPT, but if I'm going to make it unique to Jumbo John, I have to have really good input. and then I can mold it, but then I need to have really good output at the end to make sure that it's giving new value to the users.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it, Sarah. I think you've shared some really good nuggets here. So you've already mentioned your company website name. How can people connect with you? If they want to get a hold of you, do you want to, I don't know, you don't have to give out your email address, but maybe send them to your website or LinkedIn. We can drop it in the show notes and things like that for our listeners and things like that. So
you can find me on jambojon.com. Jambo is JAMBOJON.com. And we have a couple of really cool, totally free tools. You can you can audit your website, pop in your URL, and you get it's usually between 17 and 25 pages of notes about what you're doing well and what Google wants to see better on your website.
Wow.
In addition to that, you can take our brand archetype quiz and identify your top 1 and 2 brand archetypes and learn all about what colors tell that story, what fonts tell that story, what are the main objectives in marketing and sales within that brand archetype to see if what you've already created is in alignment with what your goals are.
And then how about your LinkedIn? Do you want to, I can put it in the show notes for that.
Yeah. You just Google or just look in the search bar for Jumbo John websites and you'll find us.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. So when's your next safari?
Oh my gosh. We just got back from Disney World
Did you really?
10 days ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you guys love Disney World.
We love Disney World. Awesome. And they still say, Jumbo, welcome to Animal Kingdom's Kilimanjaro Safari. They still say it.
Wow. Well, that's cool. Well, thank you, Sarah, for joining this podcast. Like I said earlier, this is going to be a great trivia question in 2050 on Jeopardy. So make sure you bookmark this YouTube video, this version, and do follow Sarah on her LinkedIn and also reach out to her on her website if you have any questions. With that, I just want to thank you, Sarah, for joining me from your very busy schedule and being a part of this podcast. And hopefully we'll do this again. Maybe it'll be an annual thing.
I would love it.
Just talk marketing.
So much. I love that you're sharing marketing tips and tricks. You have a great audience. I love that you're sharing your wealth of knowledge to the community. So thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.
If you're a small business owner, a marketer in a company, or an entrepreneur, this podcast is for you. You'll become better educated and informed when it comes to digital marketing. And if you implement the strategies, tactics, and tools I discuss in this podcast, your business will grow and prosper. To subscribe, go to corneryourmarketpodcast.com. That again is corneryourmarketpodcast.com. You can also search for Corner Your Market in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast, and you can subscribe through those apps. Also, don't forget to like and share our individual episodes. You can also leave a review. Finally, I would love to hear from you, so if you have any questions, feedback, or general comments about the topics I discussed, feel free to send me an email. I will be sure to share and discuss your feedback on the air if it will benefit our listening audience. You can write to me at connect@corneryourmarketpodcast.com. Just put listener comment in the subject line. That email again is connect@corneryourmarketpodcast.com. Thanks for listening. I look forward to being back next week. Until then, be good and do good.